Good afternoon. We're going to talk about how we test some irons. We're going to talk about club fittings, repairs, and opinions about golf equipment. All next on What's in My Drawers Golf Talk. Good afternoon. Welcome to What's in My Drawers Golf Talk. Why is it What's in My Drawers? Because old club makers and club fitters are tremendous pack rats, and I'm no different. It's about what's in the drawers over there in my golf shop. And we talk about golf club repairs, golf club reviews, golf club fittings, all so your scores can go low. If you would, like, subscribe, hit that stuff across the bottom. See that little thing that's scrolling across the bottom? Heed that. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate it very much. All righty. So number one, we got to talk about Keegan Bradley. He won. I guess he just grinded it out and ended up taking a victory. Good for him, right? Not bad for a guy that's going to be a captain of a team. So hopefully that spurs a lot more confidence, a lot more desire to do better so that the team can bring home a victory. All righty. Also, I can't remember who won on the ladies, guys. So if you want to help me out, put it in the comments section because I cannot remember. It's important, though, and see who won. I believe were they playing at St. Andrews? So that's a pretty decent little setup. All righty. So stuff that we did over the weekend, we did this. We cranked out a full set amongst a whole bunch of repairs, which I did not take pictures of. But we started with this. So there's a hodgepodge of stuff. So you see some Mizuno, some Callaway. Then there's Wilson. And then it ends up with a Callaway and then a Mizuno. A full-on set. Full-on set. And we did them with VRTX shafts. It was kind of a family thing. They turned out pretty good. I'm real happy with them. So that was a very big plus. Did a lot of repairs. Cause you can tell it's kids getting ready for golf season. And when that happens, it's, oh, I don't know how this broke. Or, I don't know how that broke. Yeah, well, I know. But here's what it costs to fix it. So, hey, we're helping folks out. And I've had some really oddball stuff show up. Now what I got in the shop is some PXGs that I'm going to take out. I believe they're MMTs. I'm going to put in some TZs in the 105 category and try and lower some ball flight for the guy. Anyway, that's what we're going to do. All right, as far as testing goes, well, let's talk about some fitting. Did some fitting this week, and it was quite interesting. I did a lot of instruction this time around, and the instruction, and so when you go and do a fitting, yes, can I let them sit there and hit it? Yes, I can, and hit a ball and get them close where they want to go. The only problem with that is if I get a club that can override a problem, the problem will just get bigger because it's because it's a human nature thing. And what I mean by that is if you've been playing golf for, let's just say, 4 to 5 years, and you hit a slice, you get used to that. It doesn't hurt your feelings very much because it's an expectation. Yet you come to me and you say, I'd really like to stop my slice. Great. That's what I'm here for, at least in part. And then I see what's going on in the way of a slice. The shoulder might be a little open. You're cutting across with a swing. You got a very, very weak grip and you can't get the club closed. Pardon me. Or you're doing the disco slide and you can't quite get where you want to go. And it becomes problematic, right? It's a swing fault that's really making this go. So we will work on some of those. I will take about 15 minutes to a half of an hour and we will work through those issues. And why do you do that? Because it opens up more options to the golfer now. Because if you just you want to get rid of the slice, you give them this big honking offset club, maybe a little more flexible shaft, maybe something shorter, something along those lines. And all of a sudden they're hitting it straighter. Well, that's grand, but they're only hitting it straighter because the club is compensating for the golfer, not the golfer compensating for the golfer. And that can get problematic as you keep golfing because that fault will just keep getting bigger. because now you have this expectation that, geez, I ought to be hit. Why am I not hitting my normal fade? Well, you just try to figure that out, and you'll eventually try and make it get there. And so that's the problem. I've seen it happen. So when you bring them in here, so you correct the shoulder or you correct the stance or you tell them or you hold their head still for a slide, that kind of thing, and you get them to feel it. Will you fix it completely while you're here? No, because it's going to be old you versus new you, and that's what we got to fight. But once you taste a little bit of success, now all of a sudden you like it and you're willing to accept that change and you're working through it, and then we will reemphasize that as the fitting goes on. Hey, you left your hands open. Yeah, oh yeah, I felt it that time. Okay, great. Or, do you feel yourself pull on a little bit? Yep, yep, yep. Okay. And then instead of every time that you swing like that to, you were 2 out of 5 or 2 out of 8. Now you're 4 out of 8, and then maybe you're 6 out of 8, and you're slowly but surely knocking out the old you and putting the new you in there, and you see the changes. The ball flight goes from being over here to being over here, and all of a sudden life's good, and now it's not so painful to accept that change. And we did a lot of that this weekend. A lot of guys just could not get the club closed. And most of it was because of weak grips. They had these, the thumbs at 12 o'clock, right? Or even more weak going that way. Like, what are you doing? And well, I pull the ball sometimes. Yeah, but not very often, I bet. Get them in a correct posture, get them in that correct grip, and cut them loose. And all of a sudden, the ball's going further. Why? Because it's not bending so far right or left, and it's going more. It's baby bends, which that's what you're going to see in most cases, right? Baby bends anyway. Hitting a straight ball is basically an accident. So that's where he goes, right? And so we did a lot of that. In fact, I got one guy. And it was funny. One right after the other was almost the same exact problem. And one guy was younger, and I had him hitting hitting a 6 iron. When he came in here, he was hitting the crap out of it. And then he wanted to go to the driver. So we went to the driver, and he's a short fella, and he couldn't get it. Now he's swinging 102 mile an hour and couldn't get the ball past 130 or 230, sorry, 230 yards, because it went 100 yards that way and 130 yards that way. And it was brutal, right? And so we watched, and I said, okay. And we started talking about swings. And when he was in here before, we talked about his grip we called it V on top. And I said, do you get to that V on top thing? And he goes, well, and I looked down his grip and I said, well, the answer is no. And the minute we got to V on top, all of a sudden the ball is carrying straight. When the ball is carrying straight, you don't have all that. You don't have the axis turning one way or another, causing that bend. Once you get it going, small turns instead of big turns, then you don't have this anymore. You have that. And all of a sudden life's way better. So once we got him in, and he was also playing a shaft that was about 100 times too stiff. So once we got him into the right shaft and the right length for that matter, he started getting out there, and I got him to carry one 260. So I got him to carry one 30 yards further than he's ever hit one. And so now his expectation is a 250 to 275 shot instead of a 230. Oh my God, I hope it's in the middle of the fairway. So a lot of success. And that's the good stuff. That's the whole idea of fitting, right? And hopefully we can get into it. All right, testing irons. Hopefully you guys like the discussion we had with John. We were talking about the irons. I thought it was a pretty good discussion. I always like tripping him up a little bit. He's still a young guy and super duper nice, as you could tell, and pretty damn smart. He had a handful of, or part of a team that had he had a big hand in that guy, and it worked out pretty good. So the first video I did is I tested these and I went out onto the course. And so what we do with these, number one is, and this was the part that was kind of perplexing, is they just sent me these irons. They said, here, test them and tell me what you think. Well, I'm not the swing guy. I'm the club guy. And when I get these things, the very first thing is I put them in the shop, right? They go in here. So they go on the clean side and I start measuring on them. And if I need to, I put them on the dirty side, but normally I get on the clean side and we do some measuring. And what I'm looking for is it the right length? Is it the length that they said in their spec? And I can give or take some stuff in there. Is it the right lie angle and the right loft angle? Is it uh, is it the swing? Sometimes they put swing weight in there. Do you get that? Well, if not, then I'm going to measure it and just get one to see whether or not it's consistent through the set, and I will do that. And when he was talking about how the specs on the specs on the website are different than they have been in the past because they took a different method of measuring. And what they were doing is they're measuring. Normally, what you do is you put them in the playing angle like that, and then so it was based on the playing length, which was sitting at an angle like this, and you measure all the way to the end, right to the end of the crown, right there. Now what they have is this area. There's a jig where it'll lay like this, and it's measured out at 60 degrees, which I always thought was kind of weird because your 60-degree club is probably going to be like a 3-iron. So this is kind of ancient stuff. If the USGA really wanted to go and look at it, they probably look at something a little harder. Now, I measured in this between the difference when you go from this to the other one, the maximum change I've ever seen is about 1/4 of an inch. Now, when you're at the top end of your set or at the bottom end where rules start engaging like 47 inches or 18 inches, that becomes paramount. In between all that, it's really not that close. So for a builder, as long as you're consistent and you're not bumping up against those rules, as long as your methodology is the same, I would say it's fine. If you wanted to be USGA compliant only, then go get you your jig for the 60 and lay it in there and you're good to go. So that's where it goes. Now, what you also see is that some will give you raw length from here and some will give you the length from the cap. Sometimes the cap can give you 1/4 of an inch. That's the reason why you'll see 35 and a half, or instead of 35 and a half, you'll see 35 and 3/4 or 35 and 1/4, depending on the club, right? So instead of halves and inches, you'll get 3/4 and quarters. And a lot of that happens a lot. Okay. The other part is we do frequencies on them to see whether or not these shafts are giving me what they say they are, and it helps me kind of spec out what's going on. And then last but not least, if they have, and we're going to talk about this one here in a little bit, that guy, that was something else. Anyway, and then we got all the mechanical, the specs on it to see what's going to happen. Now what I do is we bring it in here and we put it on the flight scope. And the flight scope is going to tell me how I'm swinging, how I'm hitting, and giving me an idea of what's going to happen when I take it to the course. Okay. And then we take it here as of late. Now, in the past, when it's been cold, no, I do not go to the course. I'm not Rick Shields and all those other guys that put on the beanies and 3 layers and go out and play. That ain't happening here. But we go out there, and this is a nice day. And so we take them out and we do that. If not, then it's all indoors. And what we're looking for is it creating a spin rate that can stop the ball or allow you to, or for that matter, allow it to fly. Is it, because not every shot's a perfect shot, is it reacting the way it's supposed to? And it's more, at that point, it's judgmental. All right. It just is at that point. And then does it look good at address? Right. And that's for you guys to, determine. Do you like the look of something that looks like that and has a lot of offset on it? Or do you want something that looks very, very similar, all right, because it's got the different little colored badge back here, but has very little on it and goes from there. Now, my Mizuno rep came, it was funny, he came 2 days after the video, and he brought what was coming out, and he showed me the high launch. So right now, what's out there is the high launch, the hot metal high launch, the high launch, and the hot metal pro. And instead of like last year, where they looked very, very similar to one another, and not a whole lot of difference as far as design goes, except for lofts. They were a little bit different, but they weren't significantly different. This year, they're significantly different in that the high launch in 2025 has a whole bunch of offset on it, more so than I've ever seen a Mizuno iron have. So if you like Mizuno and you want to try and not slice, this might be the deal for you. Now, it's also longer in blade length. It's also wider in the sole, so it's a very large iron, and it's weaker lofted, okay? And so when it's weaker lofted, it will it'll get you in the air, and if you're a slower swing speed, chances are you might actually hit it further. Okay. Salute. So the hot metal it's like the mama bear, baby bear, papa bear kind of thing. And the one in the middle is the hot metal. It has some offset, but it's not gross looking. It's a smaller blade length, it's a smaller sole width, and it is a stronger loft. And I'll tell you a story about here in a minute. And then the Pro model is smaller still in the length, smaller still in the width, very little offset, uh, comparable to maybe some better player irons. I mean, it's small, and it's also whatever fits you. Now, of course, the other part is putting in the right shaft and getting the right length and loft. But I mean, just as far as design goes, very, very nice. The options were way better. The thing I liked about this one so much so is that the gap wedges will be individual for each one of those clubs because the designs are just so much different, right? And some of them will actually come with a sandwich. So if you're out there and you like a whole set of everything they're the same, but hey, if you like it, they've got it. Okay. Now, the only thing I can tell you, because I'm sure it's still on embargo, the next club that they're coming out with will be the HM Forged. And I got to see that. And all I can tell you is it looks like a proper golf club. I mean, it was pretty decent. The design folks really, really, really outdid themselves this time around. So, and there's going to be other stuff coming. Also, the wedges are going to change. So if you like the T24s, get them because by year's end, they probably won't be here, or they might be on sale. Uh, but they're gonna go to a different setup. The designs are different, the makeups are different, even the grinds are a little bit different. I'm gonna say I'm kind of excited for this one. Okay, kind of excited for this one. All right. So, and enough of me going through that. So, the last thing I had a surprise during my fitting, Wilson and their wedges. I had some of the new wedges. They got the new high toe, and they got the new that Wilson staff. It's not new, but it's newer to me. And I gave, and he ended up going with the Dynaforged. And I said, well, let's try the regular wedge. And he hit it, and it was a nah kind of thing. And then I let him hit a Mizuno, and it was or the Opus from Callaway. He's like, yeah, I kind of like that. And I said, let's try one more. And I gave him the high toe. Now, with the high toes, they're cast club, and it's exactly what it is. Got a big old high toe, very aggressive face on it, and a wider sole. There's nothing spectacular about it other than this is all the way down. He takes his club and starts drilling it. Starts getting more spin. Starts going straight. He didn't get a foot offline with about 10 shots. It was something else. And he looks at me and I said, do we need to even look at another wedge? He said, no, I don't think so. So we got there, right? So that was it. That was the idea of testing wedges or irons. Now, I am doing a video. There will be one coming out this week and there will be one next week. And I went out and I used the Mizuno hot metals instead of the pros. And I normally struggle with these clubs, okay? Because the sole is just so wide. Turf interaction for me is what gets the ball up in the air, and I don't mean taking divots. Literally, I mean being cleaner. And you would think that if cleaner, the wider sole would be it. Well, it is to an extent, but if I get flippy, the club wants to chuck forward, and it's bad. I've really struggled with them. Now the pro models always like those for some reason. So anyway, I took these guys out. Mrs. McGolf went with me and helped me film. That's a first, so I'm going to have to do something inside that. Anyway, we take these guys out, and this time around, instead of just playing golf and finding myself in areas and just, yeah, let's try this and let me lay off, and yeah, it works good. I actually put myself at specific distances on the golf course, and it did pretty good, right? It did pretty good. Now I got to a certain point there, and I turned into a regular golfer, and I plucked one down at, I'm going to say around, it was the 250-ish mark, maybe a little outside 250. It was just a nice flat piece of ground. And I said, we always get in one of those situations where you just want to stand on one just to see. And I said, yeah, let's try that. So I pull out the 5-iron. Now, keep in mind, I hit a 5-iron about once every 4 rounds, right? And that's the 7. I hit about once every 4 rounds, and here I am hitting this thing all last week trying to hit some, and all this week. There we go. And I said, well, let's try it out. Worst case scenario, it's going to look silly. And sure enough, the very first shot I hit, it goes out and just hooks right into the corn. It was bad. And it's all because I got all like this, and I said, we're going to try that again. Plucked it down, and this time I threw it out and didn't tense up. And I hit that son of a gun probably 2.25. 225 is probably a good number, maybe a little bit more, but not like a lot more. And so 2.25, and in the fairway. So I was real happy with that. So in the midst of doing that one, I was also testing the Apex Club. Guys, I kind of like this. And I said, I plucked it down at 190. So this is a 7-iron now. And it's not like super strong like smoke iron strong, but it's in the playing zone with it's in the playing zone with the Mizunos. Anyway, so I take this club, and I'd pluck it down at 190, and I said, well, I have no expectations of getting on the green because that would be a hell of a shot. And, if I really step on one, maybe, but not expectation. Anyway, I take this nice, even, nice, even faster swing, and sure enough, I landed on the green. And I was like, ooh, kind of like that feeling. And so it just, swinging on TV or swinging on camera apparently keeps me in the middle because I did pretty good. Anyway, so I'm not there quite yet, but we are going to talk about them. Real deal. They got an A200 and they got an A300. This is the 300, and the 300 has a little more offset on it, and where the other one does not. Now, I do want to talk about this. This is unique. This is new, brandy spanking new. You guys might be the first one. Look at that, an iron with an OptiFit on it. See that? Iron with an OptiFit on it. That's what I'm going to call it. So you can take this thing and be standard, or you can go 2 degrees upright or 2 degrees weaker loft. Or you go 1 degree upright and 1 degree weak loft, or 2 degrees flat and 2 degrees strong, 1 degree, so on and so forth, and see what it does. So I'm still in the midst of measuring each one of these because it's tedious, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's probably 10 different settings, and I've got about half of them done. So there it is. So that's the testing. All right, I better do this. One thing before we start answering questions, you guys knew that I went out and we got to barrels, the bourbon barrels. I finally tore one apart because Mrs. McGolf wanted the top, and so I took them all apart. I sanded them all down, and I decided that I was going to have a little fun and make some little trinkety things. So the very first thing is I had to figure out what I wanted to call this operation, and I've come up with a name: Pars and Pours. All right, Pars and Pours. That's what we're going to call it going forward. And on the wider ones, I made a flight board. And what they do, they don't hold these guys, because if you had a flight of these things, you wouldn't be able to walk out. But the Glencairns or Glencairn glasses, it'll hold the Glencairn glasses. Now, I did a functional test to make sure it was good. I put three in here with 3 different bourbons, and I had Mrs. McGolf drive me over to my dad's house in all this bumpiness, and all I did was hold it like this. Perfect. Worked really, really good. I was really happy with it. So we got something new. Going to make a few more of these pars to pours, 3 flights. Now, the first thing I made, which the more I made it, the more I thought, well, what kind of use are we going to have with that? And it was because it was made with the smallest barrel stave, which I'm sure I don't have any idea what I'm going to do with them all, but I made one of these. A bottle opener. Now, this one is at the end. This is where the barrel head would go into, right? It goes into that spot. But I made a bottle opener. If you can see, there's the char on the back that I sealed up. And this is one where it had a leaker. And that's the reason why it's all black like that. Now, on the other ones that I cut off in the middle, I did a little something different in that what I did is, see, there's more leaking. And there it is on there. And what this is a piece of the barrel band. And so what I did is I cut a piece off of it, mounted, painted black to kind of give it that old school vibe look. And the funny part about this, and we'll get back to golf, is that if I can show you, if it'll show up in here, I don't know if it'll show there or not. Right there. You see that line right there? That was the whiskey line. That's how far into the wood this whiskey got in this barrel. And every time I cut it, it smelled like the barrel. Smelled like the barrel. And then when I went to laser engrave that, it would, what was left in the wood that almost would sap like, and it got sticky, which is really kind of funny. So you had to go back and sand her down. It was all good. Okay, so now we're back. Let's do some golf stuff. Up to the top. Young Matt, no rounds for him. He's heading into a meeting, so we'll listen later. When testing, do you organize clubs into the right length and lie angle? Yes, for me. You will sign, and not only that, but we're talking about weights and things like that. It's kind of ridiculous, and you see now that we use Peter Finch and Rick Shields of those. They take these golf clubs out there that are ridiculously out of spec for them, and they don't perform as well, and they got to go, well, if it was mine, it would probably have done this. So now what they do is they get them spec'd out for themselves, or they'll hit it and know they'll have this expectation because you can see when they hold it off and that kind of thing. So for me, my skill sets are not that evolved, and so what I do is I get the right weights within. I'm not. If it's 95 to 105 somewhere in that area, I'm good. Can I swing some other stuff? Sure can. But in order to have a good, this is the way it's supposed to feel, that's what we do. And then, the lie angles, because if they're ridiculously flat or upright, you're still not going to have a good thing. Kitson, been giving the thumbs up, even though I'm off to bed. Got to get Debbie to work bright and early in the morning. She needs, good for you, sir. Thank you for joining us. There's John Jimbor. Oh, look, he's got a Mercedes. That's one of those 70-ish Mercedes, I think. Good car. That's like the two-seaters, like the hard top, soft top kind of model. Anyways, from South Dakota, thank you for sharing your vast golf knowledge. No problem, buddy. If you got a question, ask away. Apparently, he's part of the PGA Hope. Give him a holler. There's Charlie. Not only that, Kent, but you need to get up early and go to the course after you drop her off. Now, that is a plan, Charlie. That is a plan. Here we go. Robin's talking. And there's Dean. What do you say, sir? How are you? Good. Howdy from Austin. It's Phil K. Looks like the worst of the heat may be gone. Well, it's coming back here, man, so you can take it back. Going to be able to take some full swings this week. Oh, that's right. You're coming back. Well, good for you. Good for you indeed. It was beautiful weather all week long until the day we were supposed to go golfing. It hit 95. It's supposed to be 95 all this week. So we'll say it now while we're going on. At the end of the week, the McGolf clan is going to Florida. We're going to go to the St. Augustine area. We're taking my buddy Bob and Robin's buddy Penny to there. It's Gladys and Agnes is what we'd call them. And we're going to go down there and stay a week and golf at 5 different places. We've got some, we're going to LPGA. We're going to do I think it's the Slammer and the Squire, and a couple other courses that are much closer to where we're located. So we're going to take that in and enjoy ourselves sitting on the beach. And yeah, I'll probably just commit now and say, yeah, we'll do something Monday from the beach and show you some pictures of what we've done and where we're at. And join us. It'll be fun. Charlie wants to know if it's root beer or Dr. Pepper. Oh, what did I see? I think she put root beer in it. Yep. There it is. There you go. How you doing, Charlie? There's Brad. Brad made it back. Hopefully he got in contact with that buddy at Star. What we got here? Rick Reisinger. How you doing, Rick? Got questions? Let us know, man. Dennis Breezy. How you doing, buddy? Travis K. My putting has been so bad lately, I'm thinking of a switch to one of those 38-inch counterbalance putters. What do you think of those? So, Travis, if it makes you putt better, it's all good, right? I think that I've been a fan of counterbalance putters since the time began. In fact, we counterbalanced when we did putter fittings. That was one of the last things. It was called Balance Certified. And once we got all the parameters and stuff, we would actually start counterbalancing to see if it made a difference. And it was different weights. We had 20s, 30s, 40s, all the way up to 90s. And there's a magic weight that just slows you down, makes you putt well. It's really, really good. Now, on the average, under the bell curve type stuff, it's around between 70 and 90. 90 is kind of the odd end, but somewhere in that 70 to 80 range, you're in pretty good shape. However, if you've bought an Odyssey putter in the last year or two, it too is already counterbalanced. So I keep that in mind. But I do like the 38-inch counterbalance putters. Now I'm going with the Odyssey one because number one, I like the bigger grip. I don't like a small grip, but I don't want one that's this big around. I like the bigger grip. It seems to fit in the hand more, and it's the grip that's actually doing the counterbalancing because that thing's heavy. Okay, and you can choke up and down. So I can take a 38-inch and choke down to the 34 or whatever, and still play it and pretty decent. What I really like about it is that typically the club heads are bigger, right? It's not just a regular club you made 38 inches long. It is a stiffer club, bigger head, the whole 9 yards, and I like the bigger part of it. Lydia Coe, that was right. Good job, Charlie. Yeah, I remember them talking about now that she's won that, she's automatic into the Hall of Fame or something like that. They're talking all kinds of it. And at the old course, I think I saw a highlight this morning where somebody was bouncing one off the stone fence to get onto 18. Jules says, the Ladies British Open. You are correct. Thank you. John, home of the amp. Oh, that's right. This is that time frame, isn't it? Oh, that's good. So hopefully we see our buddy come in there and see what he does. You have to play in that open division. Peter. There's Matt. Hello to you too, sir. Thank you for joining us. That's a good question, Charlie. John, you going to be part of that? You're going to be part of that part, or are you going to be on the receiving end of all the damage that they do? All right. Rick wants to know, do you really think the Nimbus hot mills are a big improvement over the 923 Pro? That is a good question. As far as, so what's going to happen, Rick, as far as distance is concerned, no, it's not going to be a big improvement whatsoever. Where the big improvements lie this time around is, and I got a picture of it here for you. Hold on. The difference is going to be here, and we're going to go through a few of them. So is this one. Let me go get this thing off here for you. Hold on a second. There we go. And then I'll get back to my pictures. Okay. So is this construction area. If you notice, there's a whole lot on both ends of the club. There's a lot of weight. So this thing is balanced out a little bit better than the 23 model. And then you've got this purple piece and that bar across. Now what that is sound, along with these little ribs that go across here. But what that is sound. So to me, the 23s, although we're a very good club, I went through gobs and gobs of them. The 23 had a sound. Uh, I won't say clickish, but uh, in between slappish and clickish. It was not an unsolid sound. It was just different. The sound coming off of these things is more like it sounds more like a one piece as opposed to others. And the last bit is this guy. So what this is cup face technology. If you see the ridge around the face right here, particularly at the bottom end of the toe, and what that does is that creates this opening like this, so it goes onto the face like that, and it's welded in the back, so you got more face. Now, what's also different is that ellipsis in the face behind it. That is not in the other one. So when you get a little bit toey or a little bit heely, you don't lose as much, and that is true. When I went out there and hit him, he did that. So more fairway finder-ish and a little bit and a nicer sound-ish. So if you're already in the middle of the club, if you're already in the middle of the fairway and you're throwing it out there, then what would I say? I would say no, it's not going to be a big deal. I'll get back to here. I don't think you're going to see a massive improvement. Now, it's got a cool factor in the bag. And again, like I said, it's a little bit different as far as sound goes. So if you're a sound person, yeah, it's an update. As far as performance, if you're fine in the middle of the club face, you're probably not going to notice it. And I might wait another year before you move up, or another generation. However, if you're struggling, and then, yeah, I would say it's a difference. All right. So if you don't have either one, I would go with the 25 because the technology in that one is going to help your golf game one way or another better. Steven! Actually, there are only 297 golfers this year. I'm normally there, but not this year. Oh, it's wanting to do this again. See if we can get it to stop. So anyway, that's still, I don't know if is that down, you think, as far as numbers? A couple thousand people showing up and going to the 19th hole. That place is just an absolute treat, and all that good food just comes flying out of the woodwork. It's really a lot of fun. And the only thing that distracts from it is cheaters, right? The sandbagger types, and that just makes it no fun. Talking. Common Man, what do you say, sir? How are you? David Jones, how are you, sir? Glad you're on. And talking back. Here we go. Golf Swings. Hello from Toronto. How are you, sir? Got some questions, all right. 370 iron shafts. Any disadvantages versus taper tip? That's one. Is descending shaft weight as shorter clubs an issue? Any issues swing weighting with parallel shafts? Okay. That's a lot of wrapped up in there, bud, but yeah, we can go over it. So 370s are parallels versus tapers. So here's the difference. Parallel tips or 370s typically come in a singular length. I'm going to say typically because Nippon blows me out of the water with that one. All the rest of the clan, pretty much I'm on board. So they come in a singular length, okay? And they run about 40 to 41 inches, uncut, ungripped, the whole 9 yards. And what you end up doing is you trim. They got trim codes. So they're normally built for a 3-iron, so a half an inch for a 4-inch for 5. You get the idea. Some of them use 5/8 inch, some of them don't. For those of us that frequency match, what you do is you start off with the 1 and you put it on there untipped and you twang it. And it should give you an idea of how much you have to trim off until you get to your desired frequency. Okay. And what that does is now this 41-inch club is going to be heavier than, if this says DG 100 on it, it most likely will be heavier than 100 grams. And it's to take up for that amount of weight that you're trimming off. Okay. Now, go to taper tip. Taper tip is discrete lengths. So 37, 37 and a half, 38, you get the idea. And what they're trying to do is keep the weight the same as they go through the set. So you might have a 38 and a half or 39-inch top end and about a 37-inch in the bottom end, all about the same weight, which is kind of funny because when you put them in there, you still got a tip, you got a butt trim, so you're always taking off stuff off of it anyway. And so what happens there? Well, you can't frequency match because you're looking for fit into the cub, so you got to slide it in, you live with what you got. Now, is that necessarily a problem? A lot of people will say no. More guys that are concerned with it will say yes. Okay. Now, what happens? What happens truly is the clubs, as they get shorter, actually get a bit heavier or a bit stiffer. And I mean by a bit, right? Not tens and 20s of grams. I'm talking 4 or 5, that kind of thing. So what you have is, and everything is built off of these heads are different weights as well. And in either case, it's kind of funny. They say constant weight because it gave you this particular feel. Well, if I trim it with a taper tip, I trim it, I put it in there, I virtually get the same swing weight. So I'm not sure where all this is coming from. But so the answer to your question is any disadvantages? Well, if you're one that was really sensitive to frequency or flex, then yeah, there's a disadvantage. If you're just building it to be building it, then no, there's not. Trim it to code, put it in a club, have some fun. Now, descending weight shaft, it's really not that big a deal. All right. But you do want to be careful of total weights and you do want to be careful of swing weights. There you go. All right. More 370 questions. Any experience with FST 115s, SX flex shafts? Read play they soft. Most FST shafts, golf swings, play soft as a whole. Now, that is because that's their beginner line. They're the headquarters for KBS shafts. It's a whole different animal. And today is actually Kim Braley's birthday. So that's a cool thing. I read they play soft. Should I tip to X flex to get a true stiff? Will be 1.5 overs the resulting flex. Actually, no. So the thing here, golf swings, is that the way that the 115 has a profile that's different than the 90 and so on and so forth. They're different profiles. So I would tend to trim to the S flex, and when you put on that extra inch, you'll be fine. That guy was something else. I do detect a new set of irons in the bag. No, not yet, bud. I'm gonna play the Wilsons for a while. I only have a handful of rounds on them anyway. When Bob and I go golfing, I will literally double the rounds on these iron sets. So I gotta get a little bit more into them before we let him go. All right. Just hitting the thumbs up, and now I have to exit stage left. Hope everyone hits them straight. Keep smacking down the tubes long and straight. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Let's see. He's always got the neatest little things on there. Okay. And we didn't get any get back. Let's see if I can get this thing to. It just won't do it. Let's see if we can do this. There, maybe that'll stop it. Okay. One more. Okay. Any comparisons to 115 shafts is similar to playing a Modus 120, hoping to drop a bit of weight going to 115 while mating mid-flight. Well, and that's all you would be doing golf swings. 5 grams will be in the golf shaft itself would be virtually undetectable. If you want to go a little bit lighter, then I would go something into a a 110 to 105 and keeping the mid. So if you were looking at that, although they'd probably say something different, you would there's a couple you could try. Number one, you go Modus 105s, and that would be a true to life stiff, or they have I think it's a C taper light is a 110. You could probably do something like that. Now, I really am getting kind of excited. I'm not a DG guy, and I've said that many, many times before. Although this is the 90, this guy right here is something to be looking at. It's the DG mid, Dynamic Gold mid, and they got 100. I'd certainly give that one a try too. Kind of liking that one. And there's Golf Swings talking about hitting thumbs up. I appreciate that, sir. There we go, Charlie. Appreciate that one. Recently trying to fix a slice, I put a Ventus redwood shaft in my driver, not much different in dispersion. Any other suggestions? Well, without being sounding like a smart ass, so common man, here's the thing. I would go and see whether or not your swing is producing a slice and try and fix that first, as opposed to trying to get equipment to try and help you out. Now, my idea of a slice and your idea of a slice may be one or two things. Your idea of a slice, mine might be a baby fade where you think this is just horribly bad and it's only fading off maybe 5 or 10 yards. Where to me, a bad slice is 20 yards and carrying you out of the fairway. And a 5 to 10 is what I would call a fade. Okay. So we got to be really careful when we talk about these things like that. I would look at your grip to make sure that thumb is not at noon on the golf club. It's not like this. Make it turn so you have your V on top, and then have the other hand right in there so that their thumb and lifeline are together, and get on there. PZ is going to hate me for this because he's the teacher of this clan, but and then try that first, and then swing through and see if that doesn't help. Now, when we talk about swing changes, don't think that one swing and it's going to fix you. Give it 5 or 6 times so that you can get used to that new feeling, so that you can get to see whether or not maybe that was the thing for you. Now, I would also check alignment too, common man, first. Now, the last thing I will say from an equipment, there is some things that can help you. If you're a shorter guy, say under 6 foot, say that 5'10" and below, you might find out that the driver is too long. If you're hitting a club that's 45 and a half, I don't put 45 and a half in anybody's golf club in a driver unless they have a seriously flat swing until they're in that 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" range, and only if they can handle it. The lion's share of most golfers fall into the 44 and a half, 44 and 3/4 category. So if you have a standard driver, I would choke down literally an inch on that thing, and keep in mind it's only this much, that much, and see and go around, play around a golf with that, and see if that doesn't help first. All right, had great luck with FST shafts. I think their parent company is PBS. Yep, you're right. They were making shafts before that. Yes, they were. I'm not so sure. I didn't know much about their wedge shaft, but okay. Have a great day, Labor Day weekend from Bill Nauman. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. Labor Day is coming up. What do you got plans? That's pretty cool. My plans is not to be here. We're going to be with Mr. McGolf and friends, and we're going to be having some fun. Dennis Breezy, how are you, sir? Joe Palace, how do you choose a wedge shaft? I'd like to upgrade my wedges. Well, two things, Joe. Normally, I get it from iron shafts. I like my wedges to be just slightly heavier than my irons because wedges are finesse shots. So you're going to be taking half swings, quarter swings, 3/4 swings. Very rarely, if at all, will you take a full swing with a wedge. So you need that little bit of weight so you can still find it when you bring the club back, right? So when you go to bring that bad boy back. So uh, that's what I like. Now, is there a dramatic difference between them? At that point, Joe, they are there are differences and there are field differences, but is one going to make you launch it into the moon and spin it higher than another one? No. But the feel and the result of how you get through the turf could change dramatically. For instance, Nippon has a Modus wedge shaft in two different weights. One of those weights might be just the thing for you. KBS has a 610 and a 600 or a high rev, and the difference literally is the butt of the shaft is bigger than the other one so that it comes down. And so you might have one that hits a wedge shaft like this, and the other one hits a wedge shaft like that. And that's literally the difference. It's very, very little. And that's from the man who designed it himself. All right. Then you have graphite, and graphite, when you get into that weight, becomes this very controlling stick. All right. Very little kick. And in some cases, that's a good thing. So it depends on what you want. So, that all said, if your iron shafts are in that the 105, 110 range, then a 110 to 120 or 1 and 115 wedge shaft would work great because just a little bit. If you're in the 95, then a 105 wedge shaft would be great. Even the 110 wouldn't be too bad to help you control it. If you've got a 120, well, then maybe you're stuck with 120. There are some 130s out there, but I don't know if I would go that direction. Now, there are some folks, and I ran into one the other day, that prefer the same shaft in their wedges just to get a little bit more action into the club. And that's always another way to go. Personally, I just like them a little bit heavier, and we can go from there. Andrew, what do you say, buddy? We're doing pretty good. Do you want? I want my pitchy. RC, happy Labor Day weekend, Jim and Robin. Hard to believe summer's coming to an end. Hope you have bourbon drinks paired with barbecue on the menu. Well, I can guarantee you the bourbon will be on the menu. Barbecue will probably be one of them since we're going to be down south. To date, there's a restaurant there has in St. Augustine, and it's 2 stories, and it's all mostly almost outdoors. And they made the best chicken and waffles we've ever had. Pairs it up with some of these pickled vegetables off to the side. Man, is that stuff good. All righty. John Lamb, Joe Palace. Kind of depends on launch and spin you feel. Anything from an 8-iron kick. There you go. I want my pitching wedge to go further, Jim. Well, de-loft it. I mean, that's the easiest way to go about it. If you're not hitting it, if you're hitting it well, meaning that you're finding contact in the middle of the face, and you're not digging a toe or you're not digging a heel, then de-loft it. Now, if you are getting into the heel or you're getting into the toe, then change the lie angle. As soon as you change the lie angle and your quality of hit goes up, the ball will go further. One of those two. And is that the fitting feature, or are they going to make them? No, I believe, Charlie, I think this is going to be the fitting feature to be sure. There's no way those guys are going to want to do that. I can't believe that they would want to do it like that. Oh my God. Can you imagine the headache that would cause? No, I think this is a really great fitting tool. You know what? I've had just about enough of that. It won't give it to me. All right. So anyway, yeah, it's just a great fitting tool as far as I'm concerned, which means that only the heads and the shafts are going to be going together. So I'm not sure whether or not this is the future for Callaway's fitting so that they can offer more options or not. Stu, Jim, with taper tip shafts, say 7-iron, 37 inches long. What would the weight of a KBS 120 be cut to length and uncut taper tips would be? Just long. Okay, so number one, Stu, the shortest iron that I'm aware of, the 37-inch shaft probably is a pitching wedge shaft. Okay. And a 7-iron is probably going to be around 38, 38 and a half. Around 38 probably. And then you're going to put it in. And then you're going to cut it. Okay. And normally when you cut it, each inch is somewhere around 2 to 3 grams maybe. Okay. But in the KBS Tour Stiff, the 120 is actually way more. So when you're cutting them down, they're assuming that if you cut them down to normal, you're in that 120 range. Yep. Charles Bethany curious about that as well. There you go. My dog Rex says give the thanks up. Saying there. What do we got here? Tim's to us, D. Well, hello, Ed, Scotland. Thank you for staying up that late. If you got any questions, let us know, sir. I think it would hold up well for an iron in the long term. Seems it would, yes. And that's kind of where I'm at, Charlie, because the hosel, this thing is aluminum, right? Where everything else on it is steel. That's certainly going to be a weak point, particularly on a club that is going to get beat up pretty good. Here's Rob saying hello. I am not in Canada, Dennis. I am in Ohio. I think you might be right. Do like it in the driver fairway? Yes. It doesn't take, yes. And that's the one thing I really like about the OptiFit from Callaway is it doesn't do that. However, in the iron, I don't see it happening. Oh, yeah, we'll be there. Need a pitching wedge for this left-hander as 90 yards, not good enough. Ah, okay. Dennis also talks about what kind of pitching wedge that you have, which leads me right back into the de-lofting thing. If you have an old school like a Wilson staff pitching wedge and it's not getting there, and you go to a new school Wilson staff pitching wedge, you probably get your distance right back. Sully, what do you say? If one decides to change driver shaft from R to S, yes. Do you have to adjust the weight in the driver head if you change the shaft from? No, you do not. That's all that is a flex, Sully, and I get where you're coming from. In order to a lot of shafts, if they go from regular flex, it means that they've had to add more weight to make it happen. But in this particular answer, in this issue, the answer is no. No, you do not. Demon at Christmas. Okay. Ah, he's in Canada. Okay. I got you. Hey, there's Dan. Had a discussion with a couple of guys I was golfing with over the weekend about which is a bigger difference in driver fits, head, shaft, or head. I think shaft. What say the expert? Oh my gosh, Dan. I will tell you a story that Mr. Tom Wishon told me. Okay. He was giving a lecture to a whole bunch of PGA people, and it was a packed house because Tom was one hell of a speaker back in the day. And I know Matt's out there listening, and I'm sure he will come back and tell me the same thing. So he starts the discussion off, which is more important, the head or the shaft? And so he goes, give me a show of hands. How many people think the shaft is the most important thing in there? And he goes, okay. So if I give you the most perfect shaft on the planet, and then I give you a 360cc 7-degree head, are you going to be able to hit it? And they go, oh, probably not. I said, okay. He says, what if I give you the largest 14-degree club head? Now, keep in mind, these are guys swinging at 120 mile an hour. And they're like, oh, no, I'd balloon it up. He says, okay, see the point? He goes, yep, got it. How many believe that the head's the most important? Well, now he's got converts. Oh, yeah, the head's all the way to go. Man, it's right there. Okay, so let's say I give you the head. That's the perfect head. and I give you a 40-gram L-Flex club. Now what? And they're like, well, yeah, it's unplayable. Okay. What if I give you one that weighs 115 grams and it's a 3X shaft? Well, yeah, I'm not going to be able to bring it around. So the idea of the conversation is that there's a balance. Okay. There's a balance. People think that now the assumption is, well, if I got this 9-degree club, I can get away with this or that and everything. Well, from a fitting perspective, we have to take you to the extremes to get you to understand that it's a balance of both in order to make a really good driver shaft. Now, if you're close in either way, the shaft will transmit feel. Total weight is very, very important. All right. So if you can go too light or too heavy, that can throw off your swing, and then that could give you a problem. Flex is not necessarily a thing that I truly sweat, but I'm more about the weight and I'm more about the profile. If you get a club that is very, very, like even Matt, he's a very aggressive swinger. If you gave him something that was very, very butt stiff, he would throw it all over Hawaii. But if you gave him something that was a flex less than what he thought he would need, but you had a really beefy profile, or even something that the middle and the back end was pretty stiff, he'd probably be able to throw it down the middle. Okay. Now you go the other way and you give him the shaft and you hit him this head and he hits a tremendously low ball because of the way the shaft kicks. And so you give him a very lower ball, it's going to be like a spherical mole and off it goes. So, but now if you got a club head that is neutral based, you could probably get around it with a guy like you and get around with an average shaft. Now, if you get one that is truly draw biased, then that's going to cause your swing to go freaky because you don't want to hook it off the planet. So, in either way, the designs are very, very important, Dan. I would give about a 50-50 shot, but if I was to lean towards one or the other from a getting it out there, making good contact, I would give a slight nod to the shaft. Yes, the numbers are down, normally around 35 to 37. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. So John's getting back to us. Unfortunately, he's not participating. I work on the maintenance crew, Myrtle Beach National. Oh, I like that one. And I was cutting tee boxes and approaches this morning. All right. Well, take a break, John. Go over and show them how it's done. Keep that course ready to go. Yeah, hey, I like Myrtle Beach National. I don't know about this. I don't know if I played the South Creek course or not. Sonic Sega. I get wrist pain after a few hard hits, mainly with the driver. Is there a grip that reduces shock, or should I be adding more head weight? No, do not add more head weight. Actually, there is a. It depends on what you're doing with your wrist, Sonic. But as a whole, if you really wanted to help eliminate some of them, I would try Jumbo Max. All right, I would try them out first. RS, talking about the driver, sound of it. I was watching a video where a majority of golfers choose club based on how it sounds over feel. You would be surprised, RS, but that is a big deal to a lot of golfers. In case in point, remember when they were making the square golfers and it felt like you were hitting a beer can? Boing, and they were getting that, and they absolutely detested that sound, but they couldn't figure out how to get rid of it. So they went back to their normal sound, and apparently that square chamber, is what was causing a lot of that issue. And so they went back to it. There you go. Steve wants to know how the West course is. That was one of the courses I would have played this year had I gone. Aha. Slicer power fade. One and the same, sir. One and the same. Is that Santa golfer in the window looking for snow? Yes, he is. I got one over here. I got one right here. They stay up there all year long trying to give me good luck. I even got one upstairs in my office. Yeah, listen to that. As always, thanks, Jim. I do remember you mentioning a shorter driver shaft. Yep. I may have to save up for lessons. Okay. Now you can always, as much as I don't like doing this, but you can always go to YouTube, find Mike Malaska, and he's got some stuff that might be able to help you. All right. RSDR Little VFW has its Queen of Hearts drawing on Tuesday. It's up to 39,000. Wow. Hopefully you win, buddy. Hopefully you win. Is there a way to find the spine of a golf shaft without that ball bearing contraption you use, an easy DIY without buying a device? Uh, some guys would say if you roll it, but that's not really it. The answer to your question is you've got to put some sort of strain on it, okay? And we put the strain on it in order for it to react to that strain so you can find what would be called the hard side. So my answer would be there are other ways to do it, but they all involve some sort of contraption. All right, William Merlin. How long should a driver be for seniors in their 80s and what loft? Well, in their 80s, their swing speed's probably a little slower. And if they can bring it back, personally, I still like the regular length in order for them to make good contact because good contact will override length in a lot of ways. Okay. However, let's just assume 80 years old, about a 60 to 70 mile an hour swing speed. What I would be looking at is about a 40-gram shaft, and I would have it, fairly flexible. Doesn't have to be. I keep in that regular senior range, depending on how they turn it, and I would be looking at around a 12 to 14 degree head. Just get it up in the air and let it fly. Now, if he's got a pretty decent swing still, he was a golfer in his day, and he's still golfing because I have fit guys in their 80s. Hell, I got one guy that's 82, and he's still hitting it out to 200. All right, that's a different fitting altogether, to be sure. But if you're talking about an average golfer, average, then yeah, 12 to 14, 40 gram. Give it to him 45 and a half, and then if it's just too much, just start choking down. Hello, Travis and Rick. Okay. There's William calling back. Norwegian Warhound. Okay, that's a different one. Was wondering if you could tell me what, if any, changes Ping made to their Tour 65 when they released the 430 and added. Oh, here we go. We'll go back down here. Since releasing their 430, I have an older one, the 2.0. Greetings again from Iowa. Iowa? All right. We lived in Iowa. My family is actually from Iowa. My dad was from the western side. We lived in Cedar Rapids for quite a while. And that's where we got our first, when you say Norwegian, it's kind of funny. That's where we picked up our very first dog, which was a Norwegian elk hound. Love that dog. I can't tell you if they did anything different to it because it's proprietary and I'm not a Ping dealer. I can't, if they had great success with it, I would think they changed nothing but the paint job. Here we go. What we got here? Mr. Jim Sr., what driver shaft is better for my wife, a Kalia Premier or Kalia Premier Gold? I do not know, sir. So I'm going to give you the bailout answer based on how I don't know how she swings. If she was very athletic or any of that kind of stuff, it would be very, very hard to distinguish between the two. Normally, if you have a Kalia Premier or a Gold, the difference in those is the tightness of the specs. So if she's an average golfer, then unless she's extraordinarily athletic, I would not think that you would need to have something in the way of something that is a Gold, which means that the build specs are tighter. Now we did that one. And John, Stephen, the West course is in decent shape. Tee boxes are so-so, but the greens are good. They had irrigation issues a while ago. Aha. Okay. Well, guys and gals, we got down to the bottom, and I think, man, we had some different people all over here. I appreciate it. I thank you guys. I'm glad to know that. I'd like to figure out. I'm going to track it now. See who won the amateur. John, you're going to have to keep us informed and see who won the amateur. I'm sure we'll have to go to their website and find out. That's for sure. That's always fun. I always think that's a really neat communal kind of thing if you like getting out there. If you're doing it right, you're having a lot of fun. You're taking golf serious, but not too seriously, and enjoying that 19th green for sure. Okay, guys, so don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. We're going to have some video out this week, so watch for that. We're going to be going down to Florida, so we'll be doing a live stream from Florida. And as always, let's see your scores. Go low.